Good evening once again. And thank you for joining us for the 2020 Catholic Central High School Hall of Fame induction. I talked a little bit earlier about Mr. Walensky, who's our MC tonight. He's asked me to keep it short, and so he's a man who doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. He's done a lot of great things in his life, a lot of things here at Steubenville Catholic Central High School, and one of my favorite guys. And so without any further ado, our MC for the evening, Mr. Rich Walensky.
Thank you, Vince. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2020 induction into the Hall of Fame for Catholic Central High School. Tell a little story about Vince in the senior year. We had to move Vince because we had a problem with some of our offensive linemen. We were getting short in numbers. Going into the last game of the season against Big Red for the city championship, tight ball game, we had to move Vince to a guard position, playing right guard. We're behind like 13-7. And we're driving the ball down the field. We get down inside the 20-yard line of Big Red. We come up 4th and a half a foot. So call timeout, go ahead. We had a quarterback, Kevin Northwood, was about 6'4", about 210 pounds. And we had a pretty good stout offensive line, so we thought, we're going to sneak it for that far. Well, as it turned out, we didn't make it. There was a guy by the name of, what was his name, Vince? Went on to Ohio State, played at Ohio State, was a wrestler. Yeah. Came through, made a big stop. We had turned the ball over, we lost the game. I think it was 13-7. Well, last night I had a dream. And in this dream, I had passed away. And as I'm approaching the golden arches into heaven, St. Peter is there, so I walk up to the gates and I say, St. Peter, do I get in? He said, well, it all depends. I said, depends on what? He said, you have to spell a word. I said, well, what word? He said, you can pick the word. You pick any word you want to and spell it, and you can get in if you spell it correctly. So I said, okay, I choose the word love. L-O-V-E. He said, come on in. So as I'm walking through the pearly gates, there's this gold phone that rings. St. Peter picks it up. He says, I'll be right there, hangs up the phone. He says, would you mind watching the gate while I go? He said, God just called me and I have to have a conference with him. He says, I'll be back shortly, but could you watch the gate? And I said, St. Peter, what am I supposed to do? He said, well, just do what I did. I said, okay. So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I see this figure walking through the clouds toward the gate. As he gets closer, I notice it's Vince Oliver. And I said, Vince, what are you doing here? He said, well, Coach, he said, I was working on this construction project at the university. This wall collapsed and fell on me. And he says, here I am. He said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, St. Peter asked me to watch the gate for a while he went on a conference. He said, oh, do I get in? I said, well, Vincent, it matters. He said, well, what do I have to do? He said, you got to spell a word. He said, well, what word do I need to spell? Then all of a sudden, I got to thinking about this block that Vince missed on the 4th and half yard. And I looked at it and I said, Vince, if you want in, spell Czechoslovakia. Our guest speaker for this evening is a Catholic Central graduate, 1975. Thomas T. Mort was a 2-year letterman in baseball, earning all OVAC first-team honors as a senior. He helped lead the Crusaders to a regional berth and an OVAC championship as a junior, and worked to be head coach John East's final year coaching baseball. After graduation, T played 2 years for another local coaching legend, Dennis Vince at Jefferson Technical College. While working full-time at Weirton Steel over the next 25 years, Teak embarked on a highly successful youth baseball coaching career and became an integral member of the Crusader baseball staff throughout that time. Widely known for his intensity, enthusiasm, and love for the game, he became a varsity assistant at his alma mater in 1992. He eventually took the reins as head coach, piloting Central to an OVAC championship and a regional berth in 1999. During his head coaching tenure, the Blue and Gold amassed an impressive 157-55 record, which included 7 consecutive OVAC championships, 7 sectional championships, 5 district championships, and 2 regional titles, and of course, Catholic Central's historic OHSAA Division IV state championship in 1994, one of the banners up there. Teak graduated from West Liberty State College in 1986 with a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting. After hanging up his coaching cleats, he obtained his degree in special education from Franciscan University in 2010. Teak went on to teach at the Jefferson County Alternative School for 9 years and is currently entering his 5th year as a special education teacher at Indian Creek High School. Teak married the former Susan Vosper in 1986, and the couple reside in the Steubenville area. Ladies and gentlemen, guest speaker for this evening, Thomas Teak. Tom, before we start, Mr. Lanigan would like to make a comment.
During my time on the police department, I got a lot of calls on Bellevue for a bunch of young Catholic kids causing problems. So this one day, I'm working in north to south end of town. I get a call to go up to the rest home up on Bellevue. So when I get there, there's a bunch of young kids who playing stickball. Well, the ball bouncing off the wall, and the people in there, the sick people, were complaining. So I walked over, I got out of the cruiser, I walked over to the kitchen, I said, "Come here, guys, I gotta talk to you for a minute." So I got all one big nice crowd. And I'm telling them in my nice, quiet voice, you know, you gotta stop getting the ball against the wall. And I looked at them and I said, now just imagine, what would happen if that ball went through the window? And this little skinny kid in the back said, "Leo, that's a home run."
Appreciate that intro. The joke, you're not supposed to make jokes to me, but anyway, that was a nice one. And that is a true story. And one thing about Leo, when he was our beat cop up on Lake Bell, man, he was like Clint Eastwood. He had the walk, and the hair, the hat, the cockeyed hat, and he was really a really good role model for us. So thank you, Leo. And also, I would like to thank Vince. I didn't write anything down. I just make some bullet points so I don't forget anything at all. And I wanted to thank Vince, Carol, and Mario, the committee, for asking me. You guys probably knew when you called me how happy, how excited I was to be here. I was downstairs watching TV. My wife was upstairs watching TV. We were practicing social distancing, or as we call it, 34 years of marriage, okay? So I went running up, I had tears in my eyes, and she was like, "What, who was that?" And I said, "Well, Vince Oliver, he was calling about the Hall of Fame, and being a loving wife that she is." She said, "Wait a minute, they didn't pick you." I said, no, they didn't pick me, but they did pick me to be the speaker, and I couldn't be happier. I think I thanked Vince about 10 times, and text Mario about 100, so thank you guys, okay? Now I'm going to speak to those men and women back there, and I want to tell you guys something. Why I was so excited to be picked for this is because of my love for Central. And I think that might be part of the reason why I was picked. You know, I loved everything about Central. I didn't want to leave. I knew at the time how special it was. I hope you guys figure that out. You don't wait 30 years to figure it out. I love the masses on holy days, the assemblies. I'll address the 1971 football team, but it seemed like we had an assembly every Friday after the season. One of those guys was getting an award or from the state or whatever. It just seemed like we had all these assemblies. And I'll never forget our principal, Father Huber, coming down the hallways, and he had that black cloak on. He looked like Dracula. And he was very intimidating coming down that hallway. It's just a wonderful place and a great time to be a Crusader. So I hope you guys remember all that, remember your times here at Central. Now, the last time I was on stage here, it was in Lamb Hall. It was a week before our graduation, and we had those senior, awards. They gave us those little trophies, like the pop pole for best looking, most athletic, nicest hair. Obviously, I didn't win any of those. But one thing I did get that really defines, if anybody knows me, it defines who I am. I got no school spirit, and my spirit really for Catholic Central, for Catholic school, started when I was at St. Peter's. I remember, going to St. Peter's. It's just such a wonderful place. And when, unlike you guys now, we had one lay teacher in the whole school. Mrs. Palumbo was our third grade teacher, and we had nothing but Dominican nuns. And they were kind and caring, and they taught us to love God and the power of prayer, and what a sacred and sanctified place the church was. Although 200 8th graders, 200 elementary school kids didn't always treat the church as a sanctuary, but we did. Those lessons were well learned, and leaving St. Peter's, it just really, every lesson I learned out of St. Peter's I carried with me my entire life. And all of my friends growing up on Lay Bell, we were all Catholic school kids. I was St. Peter's, we were St. Anthony's, St. Stan's, Cathedral. And when we played sports, whatever the sport was, we were playing. We were Joe Caranfa, we were Buster Yannon, we were Kip McLean, we were whoever the star Crusaders. We were dreaming that someday we would be Crusader athletes ourselves. And most of us went on to be, some of my friends were 3-sport players in Central. And then our fathers would take us to the games on Saturday nights, and that was a wonderful time. I have great memories. Me and my brother Joe, who was a graduate with all these guys in the 1971 Crusader team. My brother graduated with them, and it's just a wonderful time for being with my brother and my dad on those Saturday nights, watching our Crusaders. And as we got older, we would meet up at the water tower. We all walk over to the stadium together, and we started a new tradition, Section Q. And some people, I don't know why, but some people went on to call that section the ignorant section. Now, I'm not really sure why that was, but that's what it was called. So my wife and I, we have a mixed marriage. My wife graduated from Big Red, and I graduated from Central. So Friday nights come around. We first got married. We'd go to the Big Red games and sit in Section B over in reserve side. The golf clappers and all that. So then on Saturday night, my wife would say, "I'll go to the game with you, but I'm not sitting over in that idiot section." Well, it was ignorant section, but either way, I said, "Okay, I'll be home about 10." And that was it, And so we went to the games, and we didn't only just go to football games. We had our own little section at the arena. Then most of my friends would, they would all go to the baseball games. And of course, I was mostly coaching the baseball games. But so we had such a deep passion and love for Central. But the not as much love as the two people that are contributors today, Patsy DeLuca and John Serafini. I remember when Patsy, that Aquinas complex, Patsy, that was his place. They should have called that Patsy's complex. The softball fields, the basketball court, they practiced football down there. And I played volleyball there, and I played softball there. And Patsy had a little establishment inside there. And I must say, after some heated softball games, Patsy, I made many a donation to Aquinas there. So I really, really appreciate that. Patsy and John, they're not here because they scored touchdowns or made baskets or pitched no-hitters. They're here because they enable all of the athletes to be able to do that. Now, John, I was fortunate enough to be coaching baseball when John was here, and I will say that John presided over the most successful era in Catholic Central history. No question about it. And John, he knew how to pick coaches. And one thing that John did is he let his coaches coach. You would find John would be at every game, but you would never find him in the dugout. You would never find him on the football field. And the only time you would find him on the basketball court is if the net ripped and he was up on a ladder fixing the net. And I remember as a head coach, I went to John, I said, John, he said, what do you need? I said, I need 6 dozen baseballs. So the next day I come into the coach's room and there it was, sitting right on the coach's desk, 1 dozen baseballs. You see, John not only was good with his staff and his coaches, he also knew how to take care of the diocese money. But we always had the best equipment, we always had the best of everything, and if we ever needed anything else, we know we could go to John and John would deliver for us. Okay, so we're here to talk about our men and that were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and the first person I'd like to talk about is our quarterback on the 1971 football team. And I see a lot of his teammates out here. And I will say this, I was a freshman in 1971, and these guys were heroes of mine. And I'd walk through the hallways and I'd see, all those football players there. They were like the Green Bay Packers to me, except for John Kolakova. See, he was too cool for that. He was no Martin Starr. John Kolakova was Joe Namath. See, he was cool. He had the hair. He had the sideburns. If we were allowed to have the goatee, I'm pretty sure Colin would have the goatee to go with it. So, the other inductees, Paul, Walkie, and Bobby, I coached those guys a little bit, so I didn't really know that much about Collie, obviously, as a leader or anything. So I called number 42, I called Mike Mahalik, and I said, Mike, what kind of leader was Collie? And he said, well, I'll tell you, because they had some strong senior leadership on that team. I mean, any one of those guys could have been the captain of the team. They were all leaders. And here's Collie was a junior, and Mike said that was Collie's huddle, and everybody knew it. And he was a real leader. So the one game we were playing, one of our big wins, obviously we were 10-0. We're in a tie game with Brooke, and Coach Morad calls the Mahalik Special. So what that is Mike would go out in the backfield, kind of like today's wheel route, and then he'd get about 20 yards down the field, and Collie would hit him with a pass. So they get to break the huddle, and Collie grabs the superstar, and he says, Mike, don't drop the ball. So Mike goes out for the pattern. He's running. I see he's supposed to take the ball about 20 yards out. And he said, I don't know if Collie's scrambling around or what. Now I talked to Dave Tuttle, and Dave Tuttle said nobody got through him. So Tuttle was blocking. I don't know if anybody else in the line was blocking. But anyway, Mike got so far down the field, he said, man, I don't even know if Collie can throw the ball this far. Next thing you know, he looks up, and there it was. There was the ball. And Mike caught the ball in with 67 yards, and we went on to win the game 16-0. But that's the kind of leader Collie was. I mean, it took a lot of guts to grab Mike Mahalik and say, hey, I'm going to do my job, Mike. You make sure you do yours. And both of them did. And another thing about Collie is, of course, I'm talking folks about football because that 72 team. It was Central's best team. Sorry, man, it was Central's best team. It was the best team in Ohio Valley. Arguably the best team in the state of Ohio. In 1972, Ohio came out with their new license plates, and they were blue and gold. I don't know if you guys remember this, but everybody always said that those blue and gold license plates were to celebrate the greatest team in the history of Ohio football, Crusaders. And I'm pretty sure I believe that was true. But the thing about Collie is, Collie would have got in, on his football ability. Collie was also a starting point guard on the greatest basketball teams Coach Neese ever had. He was a 3-year starter at shortstop for the greatest baseball teams that Coach Neese ever had. So John Kolakova, you complete the Mount Rushmore of the 1971 team, Collie. I'm very proud to say you're a member of the Catholic Central Hall of Fame. Now, our next guy is Paul Zorni. And, I knew Paul. Paul played for me 1 year on the JV team, and I don't know why, but he did. And anyway, so I called up Mike Florak, and I said, Flack, I know Paul was a quiet guy, and he kind of let his action speaks for itself. What kind of leader was Paul? And he said, well, when Paul was pitching, he said, we never had to worry about we were confident, we were a better team, and not just because Ed Gall was in center field either, Eddie. He said, we were a better team because we knew we were going to win because Paul Zorni was pitching. But he said the main thing about Paul Zorni is I never had to worry about having his back. Because if I knew if Paul Zorni would come inside and hit a batter, and that guy charged him out, Paul would knock him out before he got halfway to the mound. So all Flack had to do is worry about playing first base. That's Paul Zorni. Now I noticed Paul, did I see Paul's sons here? Nikki and Anthony and Luke. I don't know Luke, but Nikki and Anthony, I had an opportunity to coach those guys a couple of years for Post 33. And I'm sure when you guys first started playing baseball, you probably heard all the time, you Paul Zorni's son, you Paul Zorni's son. They probably told you how good your dad was, okay? Probably got to the point where like, yeah, I know, yeah, he was real great, okay? Well, I just want to tell you guys, and I know you guys are still playing ball. You take the best center fielder you've ever played with or against. You take the best hitter, the best power hitter. You throw in the best pitcher you've ever faced or saw, your dad's better than that guy. That's how good Paul Zorni was. Very deserving Hall of Fame, Paul Zorni. Now, the next guy, I could go on forever, but I promise, I promise that I won't. But it's my good friend, my fellow coach, Mike Walkowski. Walky's like Collie, of course with the hair and the sideburns too, but he was like Collie, where he was a three-sport superstar. Walky could be in a Hall of Fame for any sport that he played. Any sport that he played. So, I was really happy whenever they told me who the class was and when Walky was in there. So I just want to tell a story about Walky, about what kind of player and competitor Walky was. Now, Walky started coaching baseball with us in 1992, but I would argue that Walky started making decisions for baseball, Central's baseball team in 1980. Walky was a sophomore, and we're playing Wintersville, and those were big games for us. I mean, we weren't like a JV team. We wanted to win every game. So Walky's pitching this Wintersville game, and he's throwing so hard, and he strikes out the first three guys. But our catcher can't catch him. So, Walky's not happy. Walky wasn't happy. So I go out to the mound, and everybody converges on the mound, and our catcher comes out, and he says, Coach, I can't catch him. His ball's so fast, it's moving so hard. And Walky looks at me, and he says, you got a good new catcher right there. Like, Walk, who we got? He says, we're Twine in. Now there's Twine, big Twine, bad knees and all. Twine goes, give me the gear. So Twine put the gear on. The chest protector looked like a bib on him, and the mask didn't fit. But Twine went there and caught, and I don't think we gave up another hit the rest of the game. That was Mike Walkowski. Now Mike Walkowski, as a coach, nothing was ever good enough for Walky. If we scored 10, Walky wanted 12. If we got 12, he wanted 15. If his pitchers gave up 2, he wanted 1. If it was 1, he wanted a shutout. I was coaching third, I coached third all the time, but I was coaching third a particular game. We got 6 runs in. 6 runs in the first inning. We got a guy on second, no outs. There's a fly ball to right field. And I hear Walky over my shoulder. My number was 8, and he's yelling, tag him 8, tag him 8, tag him 8. I didn't think it was a smart play. Well, as it turns out, the guy didn't tag, and then right fielder threw it away. And we could have made it to third if I had tagged him, but I didn't. So the next guy flew out. We didn't get that run. We got 6 runs. So I came in the dugout. Walky's waiting on me. He said, you should have tagged that guy in second base. And I said, well, we got 6 runs. He said, we should have had 7. That was Mike Walkowski. That's why he's here in the Hall of Fame. 3-sport star and a great coach. Could have made it on any one of his sports that he played and all the coaching that he did. Congratulations, welcome. Proud to say you're my friend. The last guy that we have to talk about, Walky mentored this guy. When Bobby says, I'm just kidding. Bobby didn't tell Bobby anything. All you had to do was give Bobby the ball, and that's it, right, Bob? But anyway, Bobby, if you look at Bobby's bio in the bulletin, in the program, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's scary how good Bobby was. But that doesn't tell anything about what Bobby did for this school. Bobby was a 120-pound freshman, looked like O.B. Taylor. He had the hat pulled down the red floppy hair and the ears, and you know, he didn't look like much, okay? And we were kind of floundering, and me and Walt, we still talk about this time. We're driving in a game, you know, who are we going to pitch? Well, we decided we better start playing this little freshman, and from that moment on, Central's baseball fortune changed. Not just for that year, I would argue for the next 8 years, because Bobby built, and we had some great players, but Bobby was like Paul Zorni. He made everybody around him just a little bit better because of the confidence everybody had in Bob. And for the next 8 years, the bar and expectations were set so high, and I think it's because of Bobby, what Bobby brought to our program. Now, anybody that knows Bobby knows that Bobby was a little bit volatile. Okay, you never knew what you were going to get with Bob. And what you weren't going to get with Bobby, he wasn't going to walk anybody. Bobby struck out 443 guys and walked 40 in a 4-year career. I mean, that's unbelievable. But anyway, we're playing a sectional game. We're playing a sectional final down in Bridgeport. And Bobby walks the first 2 guys. Now, Bobby doesn't walk anyway. He walks the first 2 guys. So I'm pacing the dugout. Waltie's muttering under his breath. Coach Farrar uncrossed his legs. And so one of the kids says, "Hey, Coach, Bobby got in an argument with his girlfriend."